Okay, so hello and welcome to another screen showing of Trin TV. Today I am delighted to welcome the legend that is Mick Charles, a worker from many moons ago when I used to attend the centre and a lot of my friends used to a centre. So welcome Mick, glad to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And for those who don't remember, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what you're doing now that you're not involved in youth work?
Right, well, I still keep busy. I'm secretary of the Royal Navy Club in Cleethorpes, which is next to Tail for Two there. That keeps me very busy, particularly at the moment, trying to get things ready for coming out of COVID and stuff like that. Yeah. But we have people coming from different parts of the country to our club because there aren't many left. Because of people disappearing and everything, and the younger ones, like anything else, things change. But we do a lot of work with the Navy, and particularly around armed forces weekends, and all that kind of thing. We're heavily involved in that, and it's great. It's great, but it's very, very tiring.
Of course, that's one of the things that we're maybe missing out on this year. Do you think with the armed forces weekend, of course, it's for Cleethorpes, it's a massive thing, that event?
Absolutely, it might still be going ahead. We had a meeting the other day actually, and there is a possibility that it'll still be going ahead.
Brilliant.
It does depend on timings, obviously, when people do things. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So that takes up time. I still do training myself to try and keep fit and keep the brain ticking over. And I like to run, I like to bike. I used to like to swim, but obviously it's a bit difficult to do that. And I do not want to queue up swimming for 10 minutes and come back out again. That doesn't work. And I still do the odd bits of personal training. I've been training guys to get ready to go into the forces because you have to do various tests. So getting them ready to do that. And my favourite place in the world is actually the sand dunes near the yacht club. I love using them. It's brilliant. I really, really like that. Yeah. So we have we do that. I still do quite a lot, as much as I can anyway.
I know, and we had down there with the dog and the kids at different times of the year down to the yacht club, and you could be anywhere, couldn't you? You could be in middle of Australia or anywhere. You wouldn't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
One end of the pond to the other.
Yeah, it's where you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what dates was you involved with Trin then, Mick?
Right. The dates, I've had to write them down. I was there for about between 13 and 14 years. And it started round about 2013 and went through to, sorry, not 2013. It went through from 97 to 2000, round about there. So 2000 was when I sort of finished.
Yeah. Okay. And when you took over, Mick, who did you take over from?
That was from Andre. Okay. People will remember him. We're still in touch, not so much, but we are still in touch. He was a really great guy and still is, obviously. Yeah. I don't know what he's doing now. He was in Thetford in Norfolk, because that's where his wife came from, I think. So they went down there. But it was nice. I worked with Andre for a while, before I did take over. Take over, that sounds a bit.
We know what you mean.
Take over, yeah. Since I started to run it on my Jackson, okay, I suppose to say that, with obviously a number of staff. Yeah. And I didn't realise, until you start writing things down, like you asked me, you primed me about getting asked about stuff. And I thought, wow. And you just mentioned the photographs that you got from Carol's daughter. Carol was a valued member of staff with others who were going to come on to, I suppose.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, you kicked us off. What you go through the staff that you work with, Mick?
I will. I'm going to mention all the names now, so they're there, but I am going to have to read them because there are so many. Do you mind if I look at this?
Absolutely, no.
Right. Okay. So we had Pat Hargreaves, who
remember Pat?
Yeah, I still see. You've had Carol. Then there was Digger.
Yep.
Yeah, remember Digger? And then there was Wendy and Wayne.
Yeah.
Who these were all the early ones. Then there was Helen and her daughter Lucy, who Lucy actually began. She started doing some voluntary work at the club as she got a bit older. Then there was Leanne, who again was another young person that started at the club. There was Glynis, there was Rachel, there was Angie Connell, who I still see. You know, she was doing the school work with me. And then there was Bev and Tracy, and there was Andy Merrikin and Lee. I'm still in touch with Andy and with Lee. It's nice. It's nice to have those people. But when I went through them, I thought, goodness, how many there was here.
Yeah.
And then we had
Wayne. Was Wayne there when you was there?
Yeah, Wayne, Wendy and Wayne.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, you did say.
Yeah. Wayne was. I still see. Well, I haven't seen him for a while, but I've still bumped into him. We still talk, which is good news, isn't it? So we're still talking to each other.
Did they work with you, Mick, as volunteers, or what was they all appointed for?
Wendy, I think, was on payroll, and she worked for the council. But Wayne did it on a voluntary basis. I'm pretty sure about that because that was in the early days.
Yeah.
But we had numerous volunteers, younger ones, you know, as time went on, because that was something that I really was passionate about. That we get the people to go to the centre to help out, and to help them.
How did it used to operate then, Mick? Can you remember? Did you used to have? Because people say to me now, do you still operate as a traditional youth club? Which we don't really. Just because I personally think that times have moved on and the kids don't really just want to come and hang out when they've got access to these headsets that they're all talking to. They sound like a dinosaur myself now.
Yeah.
When the kids don't want to communicate necessarily by meet, they can either meet in the park or they can go to each other's houses, and they've got activities to do at home. I guess that's the main reason they're probably not so popular. But how was it structured? I mean, on a night time, did you have different age groups? I can't remember.
Yeah. We had different age groups on different days. But you're talking about how people got involved. We created projects for people, and they would join in on those projects. But I think the junior night was a Friday night, and then you had the older ones on Monday and Tuesday, but it was all spread out at different age ranges, but it was mostly for seniors. But the juniors had their own spots as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you mentioned about, which I'll come on to when we move on from that. But what we did used to do was to get the older ones to come and help with the juniors. And that gave them.
So what do you consider juniors, Mick? What age group is the junior?
They were still at junior school, so it would be year 6. But year 7 as well, we try to mingle year 6 and 7. So your seniors were only from your year 8 and above, probably.
Yeah. That's quite a good thing, really, isn't it? Because if you've got anybody year 6 moving up to year 7, moving up to senior school, it breaks down the barriers of they already get to know familiar faces and know
absolutely
to the youth club. And okay, so when you run different projects, what different projects did you run for the staff to get involved in, Mick?
For the staff to get involved in, I didn't even realise there was such a list. Again, which surprised me nicely. And the first thing I think that I do was, you remember Pat? You were talking about. Well, we were just talking about Pat. Pat took the lead when it came to the parades.
Yeah.
When we used to get that, and the work that used to go into us going into the parades was phenomenal. Yeah. I remember we used to even mark the whole floor out with how long we'd got, so we knew what we were putting in it. It was like a proper project, a massive project, and the time, the effort, and the kids love kids. Am I allowed to say that? But they used to love it, and and when we get on the float during it, I remember one particular time we had a Chinese thing, and went to a Chinese restaurant, and they gave us all these, you know, the biscuits with the things in, and we were throwing them to the crowd, and it was brilliant. And then that all stopped because you couldn't throw things like that, but initially you could.
Madness.
You know, so it did. You know, there's a lot of these things never change for the better, but in my opinion.
Well, at the risk of sounding like an old man, kids today won't even remember the parade, will they? And I know I was in the parade 2 or 3 times, but even in the occasion that I wasn't even involved, me and my mum, it was like a family get together, like my aunties and my cousins, everybody would all get together at my house, and then on Trinity Road, and then we'd have a wander down to the high street, and they got 2 bags of 2 pences to put into the donation boxes, and that was a big event, wasn't it, Mick? It was thousands of people used to come and attend it, didn't they?
Yeah. And most of the time the weather was good as well, which helped. There wasn't many that where the weather took over. You know. Yeah. But it was great, and the staff, all the staff got involved. Yeah. You know, and also the younger people, you know, they got involved in helping. You know, there was interest in it, and it was fantastic. You know, I don't think there's anything I can say that's bad about it. I absolutely loved it, and I know all the stuff.
Yeah.
But other things. I mean, we had trips abroad for seniors, and they. Pardon?
I didn't even know that. Where did you go?
France. We used to go. We went over to France, and that was a challenge. You know, keeping the younger ones, well, younger to us, but seniors and that. Going that and okay, they push the boundaries, but of course you do. When you're kids, you push boundaries all the time, don't you? Yeah. And I remember we had like a PGL, and we went over to France with the younger one, and getting them to making croissants and just generating that kind of thing. And I remember there was a time I got challenged in taking a minibus. This was for seniors, taking a minibus over to France, and to say, well, how is that youth work? But the thing is, when you've got like 15 people in a minibus, and four of them are staff, let's say, and they're sat in their seats, and you leave Grimsby, and you go down to Dover, you're together in that bus for 6 or 7 hours, solid, and you do a remarkable amount of youth work just because, and you've got their attention all the time. Yeah. And then they have their learning experience of crossover in France, and where they've never done it before, you know, and then you've got them again for another 6 hours when you come home, and that to me, that is youth work. You know, it's about having the time to do that. But sometimes, you know, they come in, they might only be in the centre for half an hour, and then they might go away. But it worked. It worked, and I was proud of that. And the staff, brilliant.
Yeah. It comes down to that building relationships and then building trust with you, and then that's when you can really break down them barriers. And the other thing is it's challenging behaviour. They get to know like what's right and wrong, just because. Yeah. I mean, they don't necessarily, the young people don't necessarily get that from home, do they? Or they do, but they're hearing it from a different voice. And I mean, we still now, as a boxing club, we go abroad once, twice, 3 times a year. Even the seniors, we take the seniors, and they come back to us and say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And we had a really good time, and this is what it taught me, and you're learning. I mean, and when we go, we have to pretty much find our own way to the tournament. So we'll fly maybe to Copenhagen, and then we'll talk to people, get on the train, get on the bus, and find our own way there. So again, it's a bit of building character of how you've got to get from one end of the country to the other on your own accord without any, if you like, a transfer to take you from. So yeah, I think all that sort of stuff brilliant.
Yeah, we took a full coach of year 6s over to France, and in those days we had one passport with all the names on it. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it does anyway. But we had like 60 names on this passport. It was phenomenal. I wish I'd kept a picture of it, you know, because it was really good. But just going back to that, one of the other things that I remember that went down really well was we had a prom for the year sixes, because you know, like you get when you leave school, you have a prom in the older ones, and we started it with the year sixes, and what a success that was. It was coming with all the bow ties on and the floral dresses. It was incredible, absolutely incredible to see that. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
Did you get any support, Mick? Do you know, with them trips abroad, did you get any local businesses help fund it, or?
Not so much the local businesses. One of the things I used to be heavily involved in was trying to get funding for different things, as we'll come on to in a short time. But there was one particular thing we did get money from, and that actually paid for the AstroTurf. So I'll come on to that in a moment, if you don't mind.
No, it's fine.
But other things, you know, people used to say, well, what do you do? What's useful about anything that you do there? And we used to work quite closely with Lindsay School. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a group of year 10s that actually together we set up a breakfast club, and they would come to the breakfast early in the morning. These kids would come, the younger people, and we actually had the younger ones coming from Bears School, so they were coming, and these were young people that we liaised with the school, and some of these guys might not have ever got a breakfast, so they were coming to drink, and the year 10s from Lindsay, they were running everything and doing everything. They were feeding it, feeding the people. Obviously, the staff were helping to make sure that things were cooked for it. Often it's cornflakes or toast and things like that, but it was something where they probably wouldn't have got a breakfast, and that was highlighted between the schools and the youth centre. And so these young people that were running that, you know, that's a life-changing thing for them as well, and I'm sure they'll all remember it, you know. So people think, all you do is go there and run around and do that. Yeah, there's a lot of that happens. Of course there is, because they're letting themselves go. But there's a lot of constructive things used to happen. Yeah. That we're all very proud of.
Yeah, good. Well,
can I just go on? I mean, we used to hold drugs courses, not how to use the drugs, but what was the wrong side of it, with sexual health courses, for looking at condoms, and these were all things that went on that were new to places. And we had Lindsay School, then I'm sure you remember there was lots of people that really weren't cut out for school. So we used to get them to come. They'd come and do their learning during the day.
I was on that program, Mick. College Link. I was on that program.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And so you can tell that. You tell that better than me then, because you were part of that. You know, I hope.
Yeah, no, I do, and you know what? That's one of the things that I talk about is that, and I wouldn't have said I was a naughty kid. I was just disengaged because I did something that I wanted to do. But absolutely, it helped me and taking me out of the classroom environment and into somewhere that I felt more comfortable. And I wasn't really the right person that would sit down with a pen and paper and come out with a masterpiece. Whereas I could talk about and express myself in other ways that I needed to get my point across. And yeah, absolutely.
Well, look at you now, mate. Look at you now. No, seriously.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And that's when you start working with kids, and when you start working in schools, and you learn about different ways of learning and different ways of teaching, and you actually realise that the program that program then was a little bit advanced before its time, if you like, because it's only, you'd say, probably in the last 10, 15 years where schools have really identified that the way that they teach has got to be slightly diverse. We're not all learning the same way, do we? So
credit sometimes, you know, because I used to get to learn, our staff used to get to learn about things that were happening at the school that the school didn't know about. And I remember there was one particular instance of where younger people were getting into trouble because a member of staff was almost spitting at them as they were talking to them. And that's just not acceptable. So I went to the school with that information and I said, look, you know, you're bringing these guys to me, but it's not them that's the problem. It's that member of staff or that person that's the problem. And they began to listen, you know, which was something completely new. They never used to do that. And I take pride in the fact that our staff at the centre were at the forefront of helping these young people, all of us together. It's incredible. Do you agree?
I do, absolutely, yeah. I do. Well, actually, there's myself and there's Matt, who's involved as a trustee of the board, and he was part of that same group. And he has, yeah, and we talk about this quite regularly. Probably once a week, this will come up as a topic of conversation. And all the additional things. So, I mean, you know, I grew up on Trinity Road, so this for me was somewhere that I came on an evening to socialise. It was somewhere that I would spend. I would have my birthday celebrations. It would be somewhere that I'd come and get my education. So this place to me was a fully functional. It was more than just somewhere to socialise. So again, when you mentioned it earlier, what exactly do you do in that building? Well, I spent half of my day in this building, whether it was socialising or education, and I think people just think that you're going in there to play pool or to have a kind of cope with your mates, and it's not always about that, is it? But that thing to get the kids engaged, but once the kids are in, and it's that work that you do with them, to challenge behaviour, and that's the sort of stuff that youth work's all about.
It's growing up, isn't it? Of course, there's going to be challenging behaviour. It's how you deal with it, and it's actually learning the younger ones how to deal with it. You know, because it's something. If you haven't really been angry, and all of a sudden you are, what do you do with that? And it's about letting that off, isn't it? And how you can do it constructively, and like, you know, boxing, you know, just getting involved in things like you do. You know, so maybe the way you're talking, maybe nothing's changed, which is great if it works. You know, so be proud of yourself.
Boxing's another one, isn't it? In that people always go, "What? He's an angry person, and you're going to take him boxing? That makes no sense." Well, actually, during this period, the boxing has helped me because that has been a release of steam for me. So while everybody's getting anxious or they're becoming unhappy or they're suffering with depression or mental health issues, my release is to come in the gym and like you do. You'll go out and you'll go swimming or you'll run or you'll bike and that's your release, and that's how you deal with it. And I think as soon as individuals, I'm teaching suck eggs, I know, but as soon as people learn how to vent their frustration and let go of the steam and the anxiety, then life becomes a little bit more easy to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about this as a topic, Mick, but there's not many. In fact, there's only one, I think, official youth club in North East Lincolnshire at the minute. I could be wrong. I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, there's people probably from my generation, a little bit older, that would suggest that, well, there's nowhere for them to go now. There's none of these youth clubs that do that work. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's a shame. I think it's something that is there because the premises are still there, or you know, some of them are. Not you, but you're doing the same sort of thing. So that's got to be a feather in your cap. But there are still places around. But are there any youth workers anymore? Are there any youth workers? I don't even know if there's any street workers going. I don't think there is. In fact, I would hazard a guess that there's no such thing as a youth service anyway in our area. I'm not sure. The one centre that you said that's there, what is that?
I don't know whether we should say the name, but it's just off Five Ways.
Is it Five Ways?
Yes, just off Five Ways on Wellington Street.
Oh yeah. Okay. But that was a different kettle of fish as well, you know. And but so be it. At least if somebody's doing it. Yeah. But it would be great to actually have youth work. You know, one thing that might be a problem with having a youth centre now, I think I would have to have a bucket or a box inside the door and ask them to put their mobile phones in there from when they get in to when they leave. Because people, I mean, you see, I'm guilty sometimes myself, you know, and somebody's talking to you and you go, oh, sorry, I just got this. And it's taken over your lives, isn't it?
I know there's local pubs that have actually banned phones from being used in there. Someone came in to speak to me the other day and they were saying, yeah, well, we go to this pub and this pub, you're not allowed. You definitely can't take phone calls. You can't respond to texts.
I think that's great. Outside. I think it's needed. And I think there will be more of that because you're just isolating yourself, right? And one of those things, I know we've gone on to that. I don't know if we're running short of time, but some of the things that we achieved at Trin, I would like to mention because initially the first thing that we got was the AstroTurf. And you mentioned about did any of the business. Well, I was a bit cheeky because one of the staff at Henage Road, she won the lottery, and she got a lot of money, and she was going to leave. And I said, are you going to give us some money to get a football area? And she said, how much is it? So I told her, and she gave us the money. And so that's where the AstroTurf came from when it was originally done, you know, brand new.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that story.
Yeah, so it was she didn't give all the money, but she was damn close to giving it. I don't want to give any names or anything like that, but that's what set the ball rolling. And then you mentioned about the bowl when we were working with Jippo, and give young people opportunities. I think, you know, but that's how they used to.
It is.
Just say that, and they used to skateboard around the back, and they used to go in the bowl, and when it got moved, so we got the funding. We was helping to get the funding for that, and that worked. And I believe it's still there, Andy.
It's still there. We're working with young people now. I believe there's not many other outdoor facilities left for them to skate. So, but people come from all over. People come from Scunthorpe and Hull to use that.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, to have that. And then of course we got inside. We refurbed it completely. We got funding for that, which we're always proud of getting funding. We managed to keep moving forward. And we had I don't know, just inside the back door, there was that gym area that we did that. We had a phenomenal music and recording studio in the middle that cost a hell of a lot of money. And the whole of the outside was done. There was all, like you're talking about, the seating areas and everything. There was a lot of money that we got into that, you know, and that helped. But it's nice to be going into somewhere nice rather than I still see them still going round and round, and kids getting hold of them and running around the bloody set. Oh my God. It was so.
Did the building have an extension at one point? Do you know where I don't know what you would have used it as. It might have been, there was a TV in there when I used to come to the youth club in the far side.
In the corner?
Yeah. Was the building ever extended?
Not.
Because there was an area, wasn't there? Was an area of the skylights.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think of it getting extended, but I could be wrong. I know we had the room in the corner because we use that for counselling and stuff like that as well. It was a separate area. Somebody wanted a quiet space to go in there, but which was next to where the gym was. That part of the gym. So where was
the gym then?
You know, you might actually be right. There might have been something. Get extended. I forgot. because the snack bar moved over to that end, and then it moved back again into the central part. When the whole bar, some of this, you know, it's sort of a bit befuddled in here, but I do remember that the place was the dogs. You know,
I know you haven't been in Mick since we came into the building just over 2 years ago, but the music studio is still there. We're in the process of renovating it and updating it a little bit, because whilst it's soundproof and it's perfect for serving its purpose, we're just up to the recent century, if you like. And then the quiet room, as it was then, is now a computer room that we run.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, first aid courses and things, and computer courses and things like that. The main hall, we've cleared all the seating area out, and there's no skylight anymore. We've had 2 new windows put in the side, and that's the main hall for for functions, for all sorts of things.
Have you got do you still have the doors out to the back to get to the Astro and stuff like that?
Yeah,
rather than and the store. What about the store? You know, when we got the money for the high wires, which was probably my nemesis, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's phenomenal, and I know that it finished up giving. We got the money for that, by the way. We raised all that money. It cost £116,000 to have that erected, and okay, I see that there was a couple, but there was hardly anybody that actually objected. But because there was a bit of an error in printing and stuff like that, it had to go. And I actually approached the council because at this time I was also running Clear Youth Centre as well as an area thing, and I suggested that if it's got to go, then to put it, you know, where the football indoor football is at the back of the street there.
What you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So it could go at the back of that, which would just move down towards the astroturf and everything that was down there, and it would fit perfectly. And we could even have a zip wire because there's a space down the side there, and they listened and they were considering it. And a couple of blokes came and said, "Yeah, that's it looks like that's feasible." And then poof, it came again. Oh, and this got me really frustrated because they said that it's just like Trim. People from across the road will be able to see what's going on. Now, across the road is where Lidl is now, to behind the sports area. It just didn't make any sense at all. So, but anyway, as you know, I think it was given to what was Wintringham, what Oasis Academy.
Wintringham Oasis, yeah.
And I sometimes run around the back there, and I ran round, I don't know, about a fortnight ago only, and it's gone.
Is it?
Yeah, it was good. It's just gone.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who got the money for that. I try not to think about it, but you know, you can't help it.
Yeah.
You can't help looking back at things like that. But hey ho.
That was probably your worst time during Trin then, Mick. So what was your favourite? What's your standout moment or the standout thing that you achieved?
What is my standout? There's too many.
Yeah.
There just is not one standout moment from Trin.
Is there a certain memory that you?
I know what is the standout moment from Trin. By the number of people that still talk. That's my standout moment. When you see these guys, and some let's say some of those that were more challenging than others, and they come and they say hi to me, and I'm thinking, well, it was worth it. What we did was actually worth it. So I suppose that's the standout. The other standout is the staff team working together. That stands out because not every youth centre had that kind of rapport. That I'm proud to say we did, and the fact that these young people, and we're talking about people that's 35, 40 even, you know, getting up to that, no, maybe not, mid-30s. With the 40s coming from something else that we do, but those people are still there, and we even had a reunion at the Navy Club, believe it or not, and that made me feel so proud.
Yeah.
You know, that they wanted to come. They wanted to come to be together, but they wanted to come somewhere that they didn't mind me being there, if you like. You know, so
Yeah.
that was great. Really.
One thing that I've learned from, because I mean, for years I used to come here as a member, and I used to come here for my education that we've already talked about, but now I'm here for a different purpose. So I'm looking at things in a different way. But one thing I didn't really understand, and now I've got much more appreciation of it, is how much Trin has meant to so many people throughout different generations. Because it was opened in 1966, wasn't it? 1966, and the amount of people, we did our reunion 2 years ago, and we sold out. We had 250 people here. That was maximum capacity. And if honest, truth be known, I could have done another 100 people.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that was coming in, and there was literally crying. It was just with a run of emotion of what they felt when they was, and it's in a different format. It's a different layout from when they came. But you could see people going, and that's where we did that, and that's when, and that's where I met me now wife. And honestly, stories that people share, and you don't realise what impact what you would have made on people, what the Trin in general, and people from our generation, from our era that used to come, and you was the main youth worker. So we talk about, oh yeah, it was Mick, and Mick did this, and can you remember when Mick did it? And people will talk about Howard, and they'll talk about Andre, and they'll talk about all the other youth workers from the past, and obviously the volunteers and the other youth workers as well. But you don't realise what impact, and you hit the nail on the head earlier. Other people outside that bubble will challenge it and say, well, what is it that you do, and how do you value what you do? And it's when you listen to other people talk about it, you realise what you have done and what impact you do have on people.
Yeah.
So what do you most miss about Trin? I know that's similar to the last question, but what do you miss most about it?
Everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely, and I've written this down because everything about Trin I miss. I really, really do. But I've written this down actually. It's definitely the most rewarding thing that I have ever done in my life, and I've done other things, but there's no doubt that that's the most rewarding thing. And I wish I could do it all again. I really do. And I have put onto that, but without the mobile phones. You know, because you'd struggle to do the work that we did if people had those mobile phones. But you know, when I say that that's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I've done lots. I was in the Navy. I got rewarding things that I did there. I was a fireman for 20 odd years, and I loved that job also, and the rewards from that. But there's nothing compares to what the rewards were from Trin. Look, every minute. I know sometimes you get frustrated and you get angry, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't get those, you'd be going down the wrong road.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have, you know, you've got to have that. You've got to have friction.
Yeah.
Because it's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that we sat down when we was going to take on the centre, our charity, Cleethorpes Community Sports and Education, that's what we was going to have above the door. And despite what our opinions were, it's the Trin. People know it as a Trin, and it will always be the Trin. So whilst our charity name, Cleethorpes Community Sports and Education, that's the organisation, that's the charity that's now occupies the lease. However, I think it's the Trin, and it will always be the Trin.
I would do youth work again tomorrow.
Would you?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I would. And it's not until, genuinely, it's not until you realise, talking about it, and me thinking about what went on. And I thought, you know, you miss it.
Yeah.
You do. You miss that rapport with younger people. And yeah, there's been a couple of posts come up, and I thought, but I don't know if I'd need, you know, I'm still here. I'm still here, and I think I would still do it.
Well, that might be a conversation for another day, Mick, because we've got plans, and we've got talking to the police and one or two others, and it's certainly a road that we think that certainly at the centre, because we get kids coming from all over. People think that it's just from this initial area, and it's not. We get people coming from all over, as you know, from all over Grimsby and Cleethorpes. They see this as their place. They call it their trim, and that's fine as well. We won't.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think there's absolutely a place even today for a youth worker to be working with, even on the young people that are going on the ball, and the projects that we've got coming up in the near future. But yeah, maybe a conversation for another day. But Mick, it's been really interesting listening to your stories. I'm sure you've got millions more that you'd like to talk about. We just wanted to put this out there just to make contact with people that did used to come to the centre while she was in rain. And I think it'll be
in rain. I don't know if it was quite like that.
Well, that's how we call it. That's what we call it. And I think it's important, especially that's one thing that I've learned since being here, is that how much it means to people. And I think it's important to, if people can reach out and they can try and connect with you and listen to the stories, then I think that's important. But thank you very much for your time, Mick.
And thank you, Andy. And what I would like to say is be very proud of yourself, because what you've done is phenomenal to resurrect what could have been raised to the ground.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. So be proud of yourself.
Thank you very much, Mick.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Take care.
And you, mate. Cheers now.
Okay. Bye-bye, mate. Bye.